Welcome pen pals, this is Tom with Gold Spot Pens, and I'm here today to share with you a brand new limited edition Aurora fountain pen, the first one for 2018, which is the Optima with a flex nib. This may look very unassuming when you're taking a look at it for the first time, but what's really different about this pen is under the hood, and by under the hood I mean under the cap, which is the 14 karat gold flex nib that Aurora had developed for the 88 fountain pen last year, but now they're applying it to the Optima line, which is kind of considered to be their accompanying line that is just considered to be in the same stratosphere as the 88. So if you have like a Meisterstück or like a Sailor 1911, it's kind of like the 1911 versus the Pro Gear. For the 88 and the Optima, it's basically the same concept where you have rounded ends, that's a cigar type shape profile with the 88, then you have the flat-ended version for the Optima. 88's just a little bit on the longer side, roughly the same thickness. 88 I feel has a little bit more of a vintage appeal, where you have like the the very roundedness of it, the cap band seems more of a classical approach, whereas the Optima has a little bit more of a contemporary flair with a Greek key fret design and the subtle engraving that goes around the cap band. Clips are fairly similar, if not the same. It's kind of like a teardrop. But what's going to really stand out as a big difference between both of these is the fact that the 88 anniversary with the flex nibs were available in just the gold. The Optima is going to be with the rhodium. So fans of silver trim, you're gonna love this, because they are coming out with colors in the Optima all this year that will all have silver trims, rhodium coated nibs. So if you passed on the 88s because you're not a fan of gold, or you're not a fan of the profile shape, then these Optimas are going to be really what you're going to be looking for. You can actually swap these nibs if you'd like to. So if you have another Optima, let's say an Oroloid version or just a standard version, you could swap these similarly as you would with a Pelican, where you would grasp the nib end feed and you would gently turn it so that the nib and feed section unscrews from the grip section, and then just reinstall it by screwing counterclockwise. So we have counterclockwise, you unscrew, and then clockwise you screw it back in there. Being that this is just essentially a standard resin Optima with a flex nib, the main point about this pen is the flex nib, and I'd like to show you exactly how that plays out versus a couple of other flex pens that I've used and enjoyed, and to show you exactly what the flex nib does and what does that do for your handwriting. So we're going to get inked up, but we're going to be very careful about it because I don't want any more ink on the production set of things. So we have Monte Grappa turquoise, which is what's on my fingers here. So we're going to take the Optima. We're going to draw down the piston all the way to the end. So we're unscrewing the blind cap, which then you should see through the ink window here. You should be able to see a little, kind of like a little plastic sheath move down towards the front end, and that's when it stops is when you would want to stop, and that means that the piston is drawn all the way down, and we'll just dip it into the bottle of ink here, and then we'll draw it back up. So just to show you a little bit more, I'm not going to fill it up all the way, because this will fill up with a lot of ink. You probably could last, I would say, a good 3 to 4 weeks on one fill. Just gently blotting out the excess ink. All right, so the major selling point of this pen is the flexible nib, and by flexible we mean that it's a gold nib, and gold nibs by and large are somewhat softer than your standard stainless steel nibs. So this version of the nib is going to be much softer, more pliable than a standard 14 karat nib in any type of brand. So we're going to just kind of do like a normal nib writing test. So normally this is a fine. So we'll do Aurora. Now, normal writing, the nib is extremely smooth. I'm not doing anything, I'm just giving it a very light, feather-light touch. And this is Monte Grappa turquoise. And it keeps up very well, and really that's one of the big points about this pen, is that it keeps up well with just normal writing. The feed that is on here will keep a consistent ink flow. So that's just normal, just everyday type writing with just little hand pressure. But really what the major thing you'd want to see here is the flex. So by flex, meaning that the tines themselves actually flex with hand pressure. And when you want to do this, you want to make sure that you're not perpendicular to the page, that your angle of the nib to the page is going to be more acute. So not up here, more like this when you flex. So the whole idea here is that you're going to be putting pressure on the tines, and you don't want to do it in a way that would permanently affect them to splay the tines. So then we're just giving it a good go here. Do some figure eights or some swirls. And these are fairly large swirls, so I'm not going too quick, nor am I going too slow. And you can see, like, we ran through some railroading with ink starvation over in this area and this area here. Major selling point of this is definitely the flex nib, and this flex nib really behaves exceptionally well. And what I mean by exceptionally well is that when you're expecting to flex with a nib, is that you would want not only the degree of line variation that's away from the standard. So if I were just to write flex without putting any pressure on it, when I do put pressure on the tines and make them spread, that it gives me a good degree of line variation on those downstrokes, which it certainly does. So looking at like the downstrokes on the F or the L, it does definitely give me a lot of line variation, and it snaps back, or it has that bounciness to come back and come back to that finer line. So when you're flexing it, what's important is that it doesn't stay completely open, where now you have a broader line and an even broader flex. It's very elastic in its ability to come back to that original form, which is important. And the other important thing to also note is the way that it's able to keep up with being able to flex the nib over and over again, while the ink is able to keep up with it in the feed. So some other flex pens that you may come across may end up railroading at some point, and it just says the feed can't keep up with the amount of ink that's being put on the paper. But Aurora has pretty much figured out the issue, puts an ebonite feed on this as opposed to a plastic feed, and this pen keeps up. So I could keep doing this for quite some time and not have to worry about forcing the piston down to get more ink. Helps when you break it in a little bit, write on some toothy paper, and you'd be able to get it to start up again. We could look at a comparison now between the Aurora Optima and a couple of other flex nibs that I use. and see where this ranks in terms of its flexibility and it's a level of quality that you could come to expect. On the left here I have a vintage Waterman Stalwart. It's about 1950s, 1960s, thereabouts. I think the date is placed. It's a lever fill, semi-flexible, 14 karat Waterman Ideal nib. This is a more contemporary Omas, Ogiva, Cocktail, Blue Angel, and this has got the 14 karat extra fine, extra flexibile nib. And then we have the Aurora Optima with the 14 karat flex nib. So we could do a little comparison. I could talk about also something I didn't talk about when I was just playing with the Optima, is really just comparing between this and, let's say, the 88. The profile of the Optima, although it's not a huge degree of difference in size between that and the 88, I just feel like, especially posted, it just feels like a comfortable writer. The 88 is as well, but just a little bit more on the larger side when posted. But you could certainly post this pen and be able to write with it extremely comfortably. As you can see with either of these three pens, I'm able to generate line variation, and the feeds are able to keep up. So it's fairly similar. I do always tend to prefer the vintage flex, but considering that it's hard to get when you look at a used market or searching on eBay and everything, you have to know the seller and know that they're giving you something good for it. But looking at a brand new pen that has a warranty, that's coming from a company that is going to be around forever and ever, the Optima is certainly the way to go, especially considering that the Omas is no longer with us, and if I, let's say, broke this nib or anything happened to it, it's kind of a rather expensive desk piece of art. So, but each one of them I feel has an equal amount of what I look for in terms of flexibility, in terms of the nib and the feed being able to keep up with the ink flow, and then the ability for it to return back to form, to be able to go to that finer line and to be able to write either fine or extra fine, which the Omas is considered to be an extra fine. The Aurora is considered to be a fine, so I could look at the difference here. So the Omas has got a little more extra fine in terms of its normal writing stance, and I think the Waterman's about the same as, let's say, the Aurora is. The three different pens, about the same type of flexibility, same type of performance. I mean, considering that there's two of them here that you can't get anymore, it's going to be the best bet for people looking for reliable flex, for something that has a warranty that the manufacturers stand behind, and that has the performance to keep up with even the most rigorous of flexing, and also be a great quality writing item that normally, if you're just even using it as an everyday type of pen, will perform exceptionally well. So that's your Aurora Optima limited edition 14 karat flexible nib. To wrap things up, this is going to be a brand new limited edition. We're going to have it at Gold Spot Pens sometime in the near future, probably within the next month or so. We're going to be able to get maybe a few pieces in stock. It's a limited edition, 188 pieces worldwide. So it's going to be first come, first serve, and it's going to be tough to get these once they sell out. That being said, with the 88s, we do have still some colors, including the chrome and gold, the gold, and the orange that you see here, the brown, and they're going to go away with the gold nib. So they're going to all these rhodium nibs. So if you wanted the gold nib that flexes just like we saw here, go for the 88s and snatch them up right away. They are going to be rare once they're gone. The pricing on the Optima is going to land you right around $600, including a discount. And they'll be available in a variety of different colors that will be launched throughout the year. So blue will be the first one, but they will all have silver trims. But definitely though, since it's a limited edition and it's a small limited edition, if you are interested in these and maybe even just have a couple other Optimas that, let's say you wanted to put this nib on like an Oroloid version, or if you wanted to put it on an 88 that had silver trim. So even if you're looking to kind of flesh out your collection a little bit more and try something new with a flex nib, we'll be doing some more videos with flexing, and we can walk you through it to make sure that you're doing it and to improve your handwriting, or to just just have some fun with some lettering and give your signature just a little bit more flair. This is going to be a fantastic nib to work with, and certainly one that I think will go up in value very quickly once they will undoubtedly sell out by the end of the year. So if you need any more information, feel free to head on over to goldspot.com. Feel free to email me, tom@goldspot.com, or leave a comment below. Definitely subscribe for more videos, because as you can see what we're doing here, this is going to be a new video and a new series of videos that we're going to be doing that focus a lot more on reviews, focus a lot more on demonstrations, and have a bit more higher production quality. So really looking forward to seeing what we could do with this, and looking forward to answering all your questions, more importantly, about any of the products that you see on Goldspot, any of the inks that you see, any of the writing tools. We're here to answer them and to demonstrate and help you guys out with picking something that you'll love to write with. So without any further ado, I wish you guys a good day, and stay inky, everybody. Take care.